my name is Yeji, otherwise known as ANdmadeco, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today we'll be doing a normal episode where I talk about my finished objects, work in progress, as well as some plans and acquisitions at the end. Before we get started, I wanted to announce the giveaway winner from episode 8, and the winner is Rarity Chow 9525. You won out of the random comment generator. If this is you, then please message me on Instagram. Also, I want to say thank you for the warm reception of my last video, the 2024 recap of what I spent on knitting. And I will be doing more recaps, but we can talk about that at the end of this video. So with that, we'll get started with my finished objects. And I have 2 finished objects to show you this week. One of which is what I'm currently wearing, and this is the Northern Augustins number 6 by Anne-Sophie Velling. And she is augustins.dk on Instagram. So this sweater is a round yoke colorwork construction. So what happens is cast on for the collar, and I'll talk about the modifications I did after this. Cast on for the collar, and then you knit the colorwork section of this, do the increases within that colorwork chart that she provides, and then you knit the body and the sleeves. So I'll briefly stand up to show you what it looks like up close. So for this sweater, I knit the size 2 on a US 6 4mm needle as recommended for the body, as well as a US 4 3.5mm needle for the ribbing. And this sweater comes in at 80 centimeters to 150 centimeters, which is around the 31 inch to 59 inches of to fit measurements. But it doesn't include the 20 centimeters, which is 8 inches of positive ease that it recommends. So I think it fits a wider range. I knit my sweater in Isair yarn. So I used the Isair Jensen for the main colorway, and it is an 8S. And then for the other colors, I'll have the picture up here, but I can try to list it off. So the red for the candy cane is 21, white is E0, the blue is 11, brown is 33, green is 56. And I love how the lower contrast turned out. I think it looks a little vintagey, a little less in your face Christmas sweater. And I love that it fits well as that it's comfortable to wear. So the Isair Jensen yarn that I used is quite rustic. This is just 100% pure new wool from Denmark, and it comes in at 250 meters per 100 grams, but it comes with 2 50-gram hanks. So when you wind it, you separate it and then you wind it, and it is quite sticky, as I said before when I was making the Joe in episode 2, if you want to go check that one out. But when you pull from the center, it doesn't really clasp on itself, the ball. It stays pretty rigid just because of how much grip the yarn has. This is what it looks like up close. This is all I have left from the 4 that I got. So I am so happy that I sent my husband to get that one last skein, because if you watched previously, you know the whole deal where I got 82 instead of 8S. And so now I have a ball of the 82 as well, but I'm not mad about it because I'm sure that I'll use it for another project. So I held the Jensen yarn with Alpaca 2, which is a light fingering weight at 250 meters per 50 grams. And I held the Alpaca 2 double. The Alpaca 2 by Isair is 50% alpaca, 50% wool yarn. And this yarn is so soft. It's completely the opposite of the Jensen, which is more rustic. This one is very, very soft. And I'm really happy that it's held near my chest where, the color work is near my chest where it's very soft. And although the Jensen doesn't bother me, I could definitely feel it against my skin, whereas the Alpaca 2 is just so soft and it's really nice to work with as well. Although I have quite a bit of the Alpaca 2 left, I don't really mind because I know that I can use it in other projects. So for this sweater, I made the size 2, but I think I have a bit more positive ease than I thought I would have originally. I thought I would only have 10 to 15 centimeters, but I think I am coming out at the recommended 20 centimeter gauge. And I think that's because the yarn has really bloomed and softened up after blocking. In this sweater, there's quite a bit of 3-color work. I would say around 25% of the colorwork motif section is 3 colors. So you're holding 3 strands together, and it did get kind of cumbersome at times, but because it only happens for 2 or 3 rows at a time, it wasn't that bad. and I didn't catch any of my floats in the sweater, and I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think my fingers will get caught in it, and there aren't any super long floats. We'll get into all the modifications I made in the sweater, and there are quite a few. The first one is that I did a German twisted cast on. I didn't do the cast on called for in the pattern, which I think is a Judy's Magic cast on. And I did that so that I would have a stretchy neckband, and then I could either choose to leave the collar unfolded or folded at the end. And at the end, I decided to fold it, but I did go a lot shorter than what the pattern recommends. If you see the pattern photos, then the ribbing is quite large, whereas I chose to do a small ribbing on my hems as well as my collar. Then I followed the pattern completely to chart, and then when I got to the end of the chart, between the two last increases, there is no more color work. And so there I decided to put in German short rows in the back because there are no German short rows in the pattern. And as I mentioned in the last episode, I didn't want it to creep up on my neck or to fall back on my shoulders or to have a weird bunching at the front. Overall, I thought it would fit better with the German short row, so I did include it, and I put notes in my Ravelry now, so you're welcome to check it out if you are wondering how many stitches I did. But it was more work than anticipated because the color work chart ends at the back of your right shoulder, which is really nice because then you don't have a line in the middle and can't really tell where the beginning of the round is for your color work. However, this means that you have to go all the way around and figure out the ratio of the division of how many stitches you would have on your sleeves and your body at the end, because I did this German short row before the last set of increases, so I couldn't just follow it by the body count and the sleeve count. I had to go down and increase level. I don't know if that makes sense. So I figured it out by looking at how many stitches would be on the sleeves and the body after all the increases were done. And then I saw the ratio of the sleeves to the body separation, and I followed that to the count that it would be at my current number of stitches, which is one before the last set of increases. That's kind of a confusing way to put it, but all in all, I just figured out the middle of the back, and then I figured out how many stitches I wanted to go within the sleeves to the back of the sleeves so that the German short rows could continue from there. After the German short rows were done and everything, I continued just in pattern, did stockinette, and at the hem, I didn't do the folded hem again. I just did a shorter hem. I think I only did 7 or 8 rows in twisted rib before I did Italian sewn bind off in twisted rib. So that's all I did for the body. And then for the sleeves, there are no decreases in the sleeves. But one of the things about this pattern is that it came out in September of this year, so it is a relatively new pattern, and there are only 14 projects on Ravelry, and nobody has a finished object photo because I'm not sure if the designer had any testers, but because I couldn't see the sweater on another person other than the designer, and even that photo, she wasn't standing, so I wasn't sure how the arm would fit or how it would look, the material would look in different angles. And so I was hesitant to do no decreases on the sleeves because I didn't want a lot of material just hanging off of my sleeves. So I decided to decrease every 10 rounds in the normal way, where you knit 2 together and then you go in the round and then you slip knit and then you knit 1 stitch, so you have 2 stitches in the middle that are not touched, and did that every 10 rows. And then at the very end, in the bottom, I made sure that I ended at a place where I had a multiple of 5 so that I could add the candy cane motif. And thank you for the commenter who left the comment about doing the candy cane motif. I had changed my mind to do the candy cane motif, and then she commented and I was like, okay, I made the right decision. So I did the candy cane motif in the cuff, and that's not in the pattern at all, but I really wanted to include this because I think it's very cute. And then I did, again, a short hem. I didn't do the double folds on the hem, and I did the Italian sewn bind off in the twisted rib style again, and I really am happy with how it turned out. I'm happy with the length of the sweater as well as the sleeves. It is slightly cropped in the body, and the sleeves stop at the perfect point for me when I am standing, and then when I'm holding my hands up, it'll come down to like bracelet length, and I'm happy with that as well. One of the reasons I decided not to do a folded hem is because I don't think it included any purl rows or double knitting or anything in that section, so I didn't know how bulky it would be when it was folded and you would have double fabric on your hems. And I've done folded hems before, but it was all in stockinette and not in twisted ribs, so I wasn't sure. Plus this meant that I did less ribbing, and so I was happy either way. So another thing I did is at the end, she does have you do dramatic decreases, so you get that balloon sleeve on the original pattern. I decided to decrease every 5 stitches as well before I did the ribbing so that I could get a little bit of a closer fitting cuff. I think that this sweater is going to get a lot of use this season as well as the future seasons to come. So overall, I am so happy with the sweater. I'm very happy with the color work motif. I think it's beautiful. I do have the number 4, I think it is, still on my list to do sometime in the future, not this year, maybe not even next year. But again, I am hesitant just because of all of the modifications that I made in this sweater, but I'm pretty sure I could just carry over some of that modification into the next sweater if I do decide to make it, or I'll wait until more people have the projects on Ravelry and I can see how other people have made their sweaters as well and how it fits their body. So moving on to our next finished object, it is the Oxbow socks by ANdmadeco. This is what my pair looks like. It's quite different. This one is pretty pink. This one's pretty yellow, although I held it from the same ball. I stained it up and then, or I caked it up, and then I pulled one from the inside and one from the outside and worked on the socks concurrently. And this is the resulting effect. So for these socks, I used the US 2.25 needle, 64 stitches, and I did the adult small. So it moved pretty quickly. I was able to get it done within the weekend, but of course, Thanksgiving, we are Canadian, so we didn't celebrate American Thanksgiving. And just in general, we don't really celebrate, we don't have big feasts for Thanksgiving because it's not a part of our culture. My Asian heritage, my Korean culture, and so it was just a really nice weekend, a long weekend where I was able to get some filming done, and then we potty trained our daughter, which is a huge thing for us. And so all I did was knitting that weekend, and I was able to finish these socks. So we cast on Thursday morning and I finished it at Saturday night. So I'm so happy that I was able to get it done without having the pressure of rushing through Sunday into Monday morning to try to get them done. The patterning on these socks are very cute. They fit very well, and this does have the heel flap and gusset, which I always enjoy a good heel flap and gusset. But I know that decreasing for it and everything takes quite a long time. So a lot of people prefer to do a shadow wrap heel, an afterthought heel, all the other heels. And I'm really happy with how it feels. It's very soft. So this yarn is the Farmer's Daughter Fiber Yarn Pintler Sock Yarn in Wildflowers, and this was part of the For the Love of Dolly in August collection. And I got this off of Chelsea, Sunday Knitting Society's D-Stash, and I love Chelsea. I love watching her. If you haven't seen Chelsea already, then you should go check her out. But she's been doing this a lot longer than I have, so I'm sure you already know her. The skein has really pretty speckles to it, and I'm really surprised at how it turned out. I think it turned out a lot more pigmented than I thought. When it's all up in the hank, then I thought it was a lot more white, but it's showing up with a lot more color. But as I said, one did turn out quite pink and the other turned out quite yellow. So if you were to see these socks, then you would think that they are almost from different colorways, but they're not. So I'm not sure what happened there, but it is very cute regardless. The only modification I made for these socks is that instead of doing a tubular cast on, I did a German twisted cast on, and that's my cast on of choice. I love it because it's so stretchy. Next, we'll move into works in progress, but I don't have that many because I was gunning to finish this Northern Augustine number 6 for this episode. But while it was blocking and drying, I did start another gnome, surprise, surprise. But this one, I wasn't going to make another gnome, but my sister messaged earlier this week and she asked if I could make another gnome for her family, her in-laws. And of course I agreed. I love making gnomes and I love gifting them. So, and she specifically asked for Nicole, who is the cabled hat gnome, and she said, make it big, you know, make it awesome. So that's what I decided to do. I have quite a bit of progress on this gnome. So the cabled hat obviously takes the longest, and the base of the gnome isn't too large. So the actual body of the gnome isn't too large. Once you're done the cable portion, you're basically done the gnome, I'd say. And I'll show you a picture of the previous one I made, and that one I made in sport weight held together, but I made it with a 3.25 millimeter needle for the gnome before. This gnome I'm holding a sport weight double as well, but I'm using a 3.75 millimeter needle, which is a US 5, and it's coming out at a super dense fabric, but I think it has to do with the sport weight or the types of sport weight you hold it with. So before I held with a superwash sport weight, and it was a lot more elasticy, a lot thinner. And this one I'm using Knit Picks wool of the Andes, and you could see just how dense this fabric is. It's not really going anywhere. It is super dense. I would say this is almost like slipper level dense, but I love how it's turning out. The blue color is wool of the Andes sport weight in Winter Night, and I used this previously to make my husband's Moby sweater, and I had some leftovers, so I'm so happy to be using up my leftovers as well. And and that sweater, as you know, if you watched the tier ranking video, I love. So I'm really happy to be able to use this color. It's a really beautiful blue color that's almost at navy, but it's really not. It's almost just a darker than royal blue, lighter than navy. For the base of this gnome, I am holding wool of the Andes sport weight in mink heather double, and this I got because I made a holiday slipover by Petite Knit before out of it, and I held that double too, but that was at a lot looser of a gauge, and I think because it was quite loose, it kept getting caught on things, and so it's pulled out, and I ended up donating it because I was just I fixed it, but I ended up donating it because I was getting mad at the sweater, and this was in very early 2023, I want to say. So but I do have quite a bit of this left over, I think 5 balls, and I think this gnome will take maybe 1 and a bit. For the Winter Night, I did end up using a full 2 balls. So this is 100 grams right here in this cabled hat. And the cables did irritate my hand a bit just because of how tight the gauge is. But I like to make the gnomes at a pretty tight gauge, especially for the cabled ones, because when it stretches out, I don't want the stuffing to show through because the polyfill is so white. I don't want it to show through at all. And so at this gauge, I know it's not going to, so I'm safe. But this one, I did decide to go to a 3.75 just because I knew it was going to be quite a thick fabric, even with the larger needle, and being sport weight held together. I would say that this sport weight especially almost comes out to like an Aran weight when it's held together. And you know, knit at a small gauge, it won't show the stuffing, the polyfill won't show through. The white I'm using is just the wool of the Andes sport weight again in white. For the gnomes, when I do get tired of doing a specific thing, so after when I was working on the cables and I was getting kind of tired of working, you know, rounds and rounds of the cable pattern, I decided to do some of the other parts first. So I would make a hand here and like a nose here. And so I have the nose and I have the beard made. The Nicole does have a curly fringe beard. And another note is that if you are making this pattern and you are following the book, it does say K2 TBL, knit 2 through the back loop, but they mean knit through the back loop for 2 stitches. So knit through the back loop, knit through the back loop. Don't knit through the back loop 2 together like I did before for the other Nicole, before I figured it out. And I made the arms as well. And here's one of them. So this gnome will definitely be done by next week, but I'm not sure if it will be with me for me to show you by next week because I'll probably have given it to my sister so that she could send it to her in-laws. So my next work in progress is kind of a plan, and I haven't really started on it yet, but I know that once I start on it, I can't show you because it is a test knit, and it being a secret test knit, I'll be able to show you once the pattern releases, but it is something that I'll be working on in the background. So I wanted to share at least what colors I'm using and what yarn I'll be using. and it calls for fingering weight. It's a garment, and so I'm getting gauge on a 3.25 millimeter US 3 needle, and this is my swatch. And this swatch is done with Holskarn Coast. It's very soft. It's 55% lamb's wool and 45% cotton. I keep saying 50-50, but it's 55-45. And this is the same yarn that I used for my moonset number 3 that I wore in a video in the past. And I love it. I'll put the colorway of this one up on the screen. I can't remember it right now, but I'll be making the garment with this instead. And this is Holskarn Coast again, but in the color putty, and it's a quite silvery color. But there is a chance to incorporate some other colors into the garments, so for that I'll be holding this instead. And I'm not exactly sure which colors I'll choose, but these are the contrasting colors I have, and this is from I'm holding it very carefully because I don't want it to crinkle. This is, I don't know if I think it's just their ends that are just wound up, a minimum 200 grams. I don't know exactly what each of these colors are, but this is also Coast as well. And I figured that if I have this and I have a chance to play around with some color, then I want to do it in this garment. And so I'll be working on this in the background, and when I can show it sometime in 2025, I definitely will. Next, we'll continue into plans and acquisitions, and because that swatch was really more of a plan than a work in progress, but this first object I want to show you is not a new acquisition. I bought this last year, and this is the Cascade Yarns Heritage Prints. And this is the soft yarn, 75 superwash merino, 25% nylon in the color 129. I think it might be called mistletoe. And the only reason I'm showing you this now is because I feel like if I don't make something with this now, I'll probably wait until next year to make something with it. So I'm thinking I should cast on and make a pair of socks with it or something with this, but I'm not sure how much time I have currently because I feel like I have so many projects I want to work on at the same time. So I just wanted to mention this ball of yarn. The next object I have to show you is actually not a purchase that I made, but rather my sister made. And so what happened was she sent me a reel that she saw on Instagram, and she asked me if I could make her something like it. And it happened to be from Fest Nets, I think they're called. And they sell their pattern on their website as well as I think Etsy, but not on Ravelry. So she purchased the pattern, she purchased this yarn to go with it, and I'm going to pair it with a yarn that I already have, which is the Good Wool by Pearl Soho. But that's a sport weight yarn, so I wanted her to get this, which is also a sport weight yarn, but this is Surrey alpaca, and we hold it double. So this is the Fiber Company in Seraphic, and it is a sport weight. Each skein is 50 grams, so she got 5. And 40% alpaca, 40% cotton, and 20% wool. It was really nice because she ordered yesterday morning, and she ordered for pickup at Tea Cozy, and my husband was already going to go to Tea Cozy / Mox, the game store, for himself, and so he was able to pick it up. This yarn just feels so nice. I'm really excited to start working with this. I'm going to cast this on this week, so next week we'll have a work in progress with this yarn. So it's been a really exciting couple of days because my purchases from the Black Friday Small Business Saturday sales are trickling in, and I am so happy with everything that I'm receiving, and I'm just getting yarn mail. It just makes me very happy. One of the purchases I made is this Rose and the Wren bag, and it's quilted and it's very beautiful. I love all the stitching details. It's so beautiful, and it's so wintry. I'm so happy with it. It says on the website that it would fit 3 to 4 skeins, but I think it could easily fit a bit more. And it's such nice quality. I follow Rose and the Wren after I saw their Colorado. I'm not sure if it's specific to Colorado, but it was a mountain bag done in the same stitches. When I went on the website, that one was sold out, but the bear was available, and I love the bear, and I decided to get it. It's so cute. I'm really happy that I decided to get the bear, and the detail on this bag is just incredible. I think some of it might be hand stitched, like this scarf fringe at the bottom, as well as the pom-pom. The amount of time I feel like it takes to make something like this is crazy, and I'm I'm just so thrilled to have this bag. And I know before, I think it was in my first or my second video, that I said that I wasn't getting project bags or I didn't feel a need for it. And it is something that you don't need to have. But after using my 5 to 6 project bag so much, I feel like it makes me very happy when I see the bag. So I could see why people get so into their project bags. And you know, I might be becoming one of those people, but this is very nice and I'm very, very thrilled with this purchase. Another purchase I made is from Golden Hour Knitwear, and this is their Crazy Sock Skein, and this is from their mystery sock skein sale that they were having. And it is 75% fine superwash merino wool, 25% nylon with 437 yards and 100 grams. It's 4-ply, but at being 437 yards, it doesn't feel super thin. It just feels like quite a standard fingering weight yarn, which I'm very happy with. And I cannot wait to make probably a pair of socks with this as well. I was really not joking when I said that I wanted to try one skein from all of these individual indie dyers just to test out their yarn and see how it is. I have more coming in, but the other purchase I made is from Camellia Fiber Co. And they just opened up a shop, I think, in Tennessee. This is organic merino fingering, and it's 100% merino wool at 438 yards, non-superwash. So I think this one is in the color Camellia, and I wanted to get the color Camellia from Camellia Fiber Co. because, you know, when you go to a restaurant, the foods that you want to try are the foods with their name in it, just because that's what they're maybe or probably the most proud of. And so it's the same thing. I saw the color Camellia, I like the light pink, and so I decided to get it, and it's a really soft rose pink. And I think this one will become probably a hat of some sort since it doesn't have that nylon in it. So next, I received an order from Little Knits that I placed, and I am so excited about this yarn. I got one of their full bag sales of 5 skeins of yarn, and I got this. It's the Juniper Moon Farm Santa Cruz Organic Merino, and this was finest organic merino humanly grown in Argentina. This is at a worsted weight. It's in the color cornflower, and it is 191 yards for 100 grams. And with this yarn, I have 6 skeins. I bought one other one. I plan on making the sweater by November Knits, and that was one of the 2 sweaters from my 2024 recap that I said I bought the pattern of but haven't knitted yet, so I plan on knitting it sometime in 2025. Also on Little Knits, they have really cute sock yarn, and so I did get a few skeins of sock yarns. I know it's something that I said I had to work on, where I get a project quantity and then I get some sock yarns or some hat yarns, but one of my goals for next year is to make accessories or more accessories. And so I think this will be a really cute sock. It's called Ruby, and it looks quite Christmassy to me. It's a Super Socks Laying Yarns Gemstones Super Soft color 4-ply in the color Ruby. And I'm not sure if you can see the sock image there, but it's so cute. This might be a next year cast on, who knows, but I'm really happy to have it. I also got another one of the Cascade Yarns Heritage prints, and this one, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the number 124. I think this might be called Ice Rink, now that I think about it, but I'll put it on the screen if it's not. And I also picked up Arne and Carlos Regia Design Line 4-ply yarn. This one, I'm not sure what it's called again, but it has that design on the socks there, and Arne and Carlos 03882. And this one also seemed really pretty. I love the colors, so I'm really happy to have it. So that's it for some of my plans as well as acquisitions. And I know this week was quite acquisition heavy. Next week, maybe even the week after, might be quite acquisition heavy as well, as I get more yarns from my Black Friday, from the sales that were happening, as well as I asked for yarn and yarn items for Christmas. And so I feel like the holiday months, I'll just be piling on a lot of acquisitions, and then in the new year we'll try to get through some of it. And other content plans that I have, I will let you know as they come up, but I wanted to mention that I will be doing a 2024 recap of what I made. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Bye.